Hello everyone, Mike with Fights with Friends. The time is finally here. Tyron Woodley will finally defend his belt. He will be defending, of course, against Darren the Gorilla Till. This is an incredible matchup. Of course, we were expecting possibly Tyron Woodley versus Colby Covington. I think that matchup will be coming on down the road. I'm going to break down a few other fights that I just picked through before I get to the main event. I'm going to start out with Diego Sanchez because I've been a big fan for a very long time. He's taken on Craig White, the Thundercat. Craig White came into the UFC on short notice, a 47-pound weight cut. He got 47 pounds. He had done it one other time in his fight. He lost to Neil Magny in the first round. He got knocked out in the first round. So he was almost kind of like a sacrificial lamb. You kind of got to feel a little sorry for the guy. Apparently he had done something similar earlier in his career, though. He had lost 30-something pounds, and he promised his family he would never do it again. Then the UFC came calling and said, if you want this fight, you got to make this weight. Hopefully he stayed in better shape this time. Diego Sanchez, 36 years old now. Of course, he's been in a ton of wars. He came out recently in an interview just this week, said he's more dedicated than ever. He said he's a better martial artist than ever. He's gotten knocked out in his last two fights, though. Let's just go back and look at what's happened and compare it to what he's saying. So he's saying that he's the best Diego Sanchez that he's ever been. He's taken one last chance, one last shot at the title, one last run. He's not ranked right now. In fact, he's got, if you count this, and I love Diego Sanchez, so I am not trying to be a Diego Sanchez hater here. But you got 3, 4, 5, 6. He's lost 6 of his last 9 fights. He's got knocked out in the first round in his last 2. One against Matt Brown, one against Al Quinta. Very tough guys. But he also got knocked out by a Joe Lozon, that was 2 years ago. But Joe Lozon in his last fight got destroyed. Looked like he should have retired probably 2 years ago, to be honest. Of course, that Gilbert Melendez fight, we're about 5 years removed from that, but one of the better fights we've ever seen in the UFC. Beat Ross Pearson after this. Let's look currently. The only person he has beaten was Marcin Held, and to be 100% honest with you, I don't know who the hell that guy is. To go back to the last time that Diego Sanchez beat anyone, finished anyone, you have to go back a very long time. Looks like you actually have to go back to 2008. Is that correct? Am I missing something here? He says he's going to finish Craig White. I have to be missing something here, right? Now, the last time Diego Sanchez finished someone was in 2008 by third-round knockout. Luigi Faravanti. That is a very, very long time ago. That's literally a decade ago. That is incredible. I had no idea it was that long since he had finished anyone. So he's 26 years old the last time that he finished a fight. He's now 36 years old. He has 3 wins in his last 9 fights over the span of 4 years. I think he's done. Guys. Literally from 32 to 36. Some fighters, that's their prime. He started very young. I think he peaked young, and I think this should probably be it for him. I mean, maybe he gets a good draw You know, and Craig, he's on the UFC Fight Pass early prelims, and Craig White. But, you know, if you get that victory, Diego, I love you, man, but might not be a bad time to think about hanging it up. Let's look at Nico Price versus Abdul Razak Alhazen. Nico Price, of course, was the guy who got that weird knockout in Boise. I believe that was one from his back. He was throwing hammer fists off of his back, and I was at that one live, of course. That was absolutely insane to see. Against Randy Brown at Fight Out Boise. I believe that's the first time that's ever happened in the UFC. But lucky shot. Abdul Razak Alhazen, 100% knockout ratio. Nico Price is a well-rounded fighter. I think he's too big for him, though. Honestly, he walks around closer to 200. I think Nico maybe drops about 10, 12 pounds. But maybe he'll have more energy. Maybe he'll surprise me. You know, have more energy because he's not making that big weight cut. I'm going to go with Abdul Razak Alhazen by second round knockout, though. Let's move to Zabit Magomed Sharapov versus Brandon Killer B. Davis. So why is he fighting Brandon Killer B. Davis? Well, most of you probably know the story about Yair Rodriguez. Originally, there was a dispute with UFC over this fight. The first time, Yair Rodriguez actually had refused the fight, and the UFC had said that he was cut. Yair went online and basically said Dana was lying. They cut him. Then later they said it was a misunderstanding. Now Yair Rodriguez walks out of the matchup with an undisclosed injury. Zabit is, of course, saying that he's too scared to fight him. This guy here, Brandon Davis, he's 2-2 in the UFC. He really hasn't fought anybody substantial. I'm going to take Zabit to beat him up and knock him out in the first round, to be honest. I really wish that we would have seen, you know, the fight that we all wanted to see against Yair Rodriguez. But hopefully that's down the road. And if Yair Rodriguez is actually injured, if it's a severe injury, then that's understandable. But that's, you know, that I don't have that information. You can see Magomed Sharapov, an absolutely ginormous favorite, minus 1,200. So if you have any faith at all in Brandon Killer B. Davis, if you want to toss $100 on him, you're going to bring $775 to show off to your friends. Not a bad payday at all. Same thing with Nico Montano versus Valentina Shevchenko. Of course, we know Valentina Shevchenko is a beast. I mean, she takes girls into deep water, and she absolutely drowns them. Nico's got 7 fights, only 5-2. She's still very young in her career. She's got the championship, but that's her only fight in the UFC outside of the Ultimate Fighter was against Roxanne Modafferi. It was fight of the night, unanimous decision. And it was an impressive performance. But at the end of the day, you're talking about a lady, Valentina Shevchenko, that, I mean, she's the #1 contender for a reason. I mean, who is beating this lady besides Amanda Nunes? And that was a split decision. Remember, a lot of people thought she beat Amanda Nunes. She's got a victory over Holly Holm. She's on a 4-fight winning streak, including a victory over Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, and then poor Priscilla Cocheo, which a lot of people will always remember that fight for the "if they die, let them die" fight from Maru Yamasaki. Absolutely horrible fight. And then her last loss before that was to Amanda Nunes also. So she lost to her the one time, unanimous decision. She's taken her to the decision twice, got the title shot, lost a close one by split decision. I think she absolutely dominates this one, and I think she finishes Nico Montano. I think she subs her in the second round. I think Nico's tough enough to make it to the second round, but I think that's about it. And then I think Shevchenko's able to pull something out, and I think it's going to be a choke with a bloodied Nico Montano on the bottom. Let's move to the main event, though. Tyron Woodley versus Darren Till. There is so much hype around this fight and so much controversy around both these fighters. If you haven't listened to it, if you haven't listened to UFC Unfiltered with Matt Serra, by the way, check out that podcast. It's a great podcast. I listened to it. Darren Till and Tyron Woodley, he had them both on as guests yesterday. I listened to it today. He had them on there separately. Of course, Darren Till, in general, Darren Till style, says, I don't give an F. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to destroy you. I know I'm going to be champ. He has the confidence of somebody coming in against a guy like Tyron Woodley that you should. Now, Tyron Woodley, immensely talented, balanced MMA fighter, striking, grappling. You know, what else can he possibly do but rap, commentate, go out there and do stand-up comedy, apparently. He's done a couple of stand-up comedy acts, and a lot of people are like, hey, what's going on? Why are you concentrating on your training? Is he putting too many things on his plate like Ronda Rousey did? Well, he was quick to defend that. He said, hey, I was injured, so I could sit and I could put my feet up and I could feel sorry for myself, or I could go out there and try to get better at something else and make myself some money and make myself a bigger star. Basically, diversify his portfolio of talents. And that's what he went out there and did. And I don't knock him for that. Apparently, he had got a couple of stand-up invitations while he was in training camp. He rightfully declined them. He said he would have liked to have gone, but he thought that it would have put out the wrong image. I hope he has taken Darren Till very seriously. I'm pretty sure he is. Tyron Woodley is one of those guys that watches a lot of tape. And there's a couple things that people really underestimate from Tyron Woodley. For one, you forget about how good of a wrestler he is and what kind of a pace he sets. For another, you forget how smart this guy is, how he breaks down tape. He was talking about breaking down that tape between Darren Till and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and how he knew Darren Till was breaking down his tapes versus Stephen Thompson, and he was going to be looking for the weaknesses to go for, and Tyron Woodley is trying to adjust to those things. He's a very, very smart MMA fighter. I'm not sure why he's as hated as he is. I'm a big Tyron Woodley fan, to be honest. I'm a fan of the fighter. I think he's a genuine person. I know a lot of you on here disagree with me, and I'm sure I'll hear those down in the comments. Darren Till, I like that just fighter's mentality, though. The guy's like, I don't give an F. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to knock him out. This is my time. He's undefeated in the UFC. Of course, a lot of people forget he did have a draw against Nicholas Dalby. That was almost 3 years ago, though, now. I think we can forget about that now. So he's on a 4-fight win streak. Of course, he had the first round knockout over Darren Till, over Donald Cerrone, not over himself, over Donald Cerrone, which is kind of the fight that put him on the map for everyone. And then an incredible fight with Stephen Thompson, incredibly boring fight for a lot of MMA fans because of the counter-striking and the proficiency of both fighters. They're both counter fighters. They both want to wait for the other fighter to come to them, and they are very good at getting out of the way of shots, and they know their range very well. They're both karate fighters, and those guys are very good at landing shots. Now, remember, Stephen Thompson caught Darren Till. Tyron Woodley caught Stephen Thompson several times, almost finished him several times. One thing I've said from the beginning is I don't think that Darren Till has faced somebody who's a wrestler like Tyron Woodley. In fact, I know he hasn't. Now, Tyron Woodley, he's going to press a pace, and he has immense concentration during fights. Both of these guys do. But Tyron Woodley, 50 minutes with Stephen Thompson. I think that's one of the things that people underestimate about him. 50 minutes in the ring with Stephen Thompson. And then you got the Damian Maia fight. So really you have 75 minutes in the cage with great patience. And with the Stephen Thompson fights, I mean, just showing absolute great patience. And of course, both of those split decisions. Now, Darren Till, he's a similar fighter, but I don't think he's going to have the takedown defense of Stephen Thompson. Even Stephen Thompson took down Darren Till. So I don't even think that Darren Till believes Darren Till has the takedown defense of Tyron Woodley. Now, I believe Darren Till will be very disciplined. I believe he's just as disciplined as Tyron Woodley, and that's why I think this is going to go deep. I think it's going to get into the 4th round, and Tyron Woodley's takedowns and his pressing of the action, and Darren Till just getting tired from continuously having to remove Tyron Woodley's body off him, having to get up, or even having to fight off takedowns. I think he gets worn out, especially with that huge weight cut. We're assuming he makes weight. I think he does, but it's going to drain him a lot. A lot of people talk about the reach. That's one more thing I want to bring out. They talk about the reach. Look at the reach. It's even. 42-inch leg reach, even. 74-inch reach, even. So it may look different when they're standing against each other. And yes, Darren Till's 3 inches taller. But at the end of the day, the reach is the same. So I don't expect that to play a factor. Tyron Woodley is very good at judging his distance, as is Darren Till. I expect Darren Till to have his moments, but I picked Tyron Woodley by 4th round knockout to stop it. I think he's just going to be too much for Darren Till by the end of it, and I think he finishes it. I want to know what you guys think, though. Let me know what you think of these fights. I will be streaming these, by the way. I'll be streaming on Mike Reviews It All. If you hadn't seen, my channel, unfortunately, was recently suspended for streaming purposes. But on Mike Reviews It All, I will be streaming the live reaction of UFC 228. So don't miss it. If you're not subscribed to Mike Reviews It All, I'm going to put it down there in the link below. Please make sure and remedy that right now, or you're going to risk missing the fight. As always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see your fine asses later.